There was a time when you needed a printing press to get your message out to a mass audience. Today, just about anyone can publish their thoughts and ideas and share them with the world. All it takes is a blog. But having your own platform, even having an audience, is not the same thing as having something valuable to say. And in this course, I'm going to show you how to craft blog posts with engaging content, sensible structure, and the kind of style that'll have readers sharing your work and coming back for more. Whether you're using your blog to share personal insights, promote your business, or establish yourself as a thought leader in your area of expertise, I'll help you decide what should go into them, what format they should take, and even how to deal with the inevitable negative comments that all bloggers eventually get. Writing a compelling blog post can be trickier than it looks, but with a few simple lessons, we can turn your knowledge and passion into a regular writing practice that not only develops your voice, but really builds your brand. So are you ready? Let's get blogging. This course is for bloggers who are trying to build a loyal following and for those who just want to make sure the occasional posts they do make are well-read, well-received, and hopefully shared. It's perfect, too, for those who post to the LinkedIn newsfeed. In this course, I'm going to show you how to take your blog writing to the next level, so you'll want to have a pretty good handle on basic writing skills before you begin, in order to get the most out of the lessons here. And if you dream of blogging someday but don't actually have anywhere to do it yet, you can create a blog pretty easily. Check out a variety of courses on getting started in WordPress. Now, let's dive in. When you're flitting about the internet, there's really only one reason you stop to read someone's blog post, and I'm going to tell you what that reason is. But first, I'm going to tell you what that reason isn't. You don't stop to read a blog post because the writer loves to hear himself talk. You certainly don't do it because you have nothing better to do with your time, or have trouble finding anything to read these days. The only reason you'll put a few minutes of your extremely busy life on hold, long enough to read a blog post, is this. It's offering something you want or need at that moment. In other words, it's useful to you in some way. It's informative or helpful. It educates you, even challenges you. Unlike, say, a diary entry, which is written only to serve the writer herself, a compelling blog post isn't a navel-gazing meditation on a subject or a self-serving rant. It must serve readers, raise their awareness, move them to action, make them laugh or cry, change their minds. Let's look at a couple of examples. In her post, Great Answers to 5 Tough Job Interview Questions, employment expert Stacey Gordon offers something that's nearly irresistible to anyone in the job hunting process. She considers what those folks need, answers to the questions that most of us get tripped up on, and then just hands them over free of charge. She says, instead of feeling that awful wave of regret after an interview and wishing you'd responded differently, get prepared. And she tells you exactly how. If they ask you this question, answer it this way. If they say this to you, offer up these responses. These are road-tested tools you can put to use to improve your chances of getting the job you want. That's useful. Here's another example from Frugal Woods, a blog offering pragmatic, money-saving advice. In their post, Why We Buy Used Cars, and You Should Too, they walk us through the reasons people tend to buy new cars, and then set about dismissing each of those reasons with solid logic and straight-up math. They follow up all of this with helpful advice on finding a used car. Even if you still insist on buying a new car by the end, you will have learned why it's probably going to cost you too much money. The post is packed with helpful information, and that's what keeps people reading from start to finish. So, when you're writing your own blog posts, think about what your audience will find useful. Ask yourself the following questions to get your ideas rolling in the right direction. How can you help your readers solve a problem, achieve a common goal, or understand a complex issue? Can you soothe a worry they have? Can you teach them something that will make them feel better about themselves or improve their lives in some way? And here's another one. Can you make them laugh and see the humor in something we all struggle with? A blog post doesn't need to have lofty goals to be compelling. If your only purpose is to amuse, that's absolutely worthwhile, as long as you can be reasonably sure you'll amuse someone beyond yourself and your mom. Just remember to keep your audience's needs and interests in mind, offer them something of value, and you'll notice more readers putting their extremely busy lives on hold for a few minutes to stop and read your posts. Everyone's an expert in something. Maybe you're steeped in the intricacies of punk rock history. Maybe you've been fly fishing since you were 5. Maybe you bake pastries like nobody's business or wrote your dissertation on Middle Eastern politics. Whatever you're most knowledgeable about, whatever topics you know backwards and forwards, inside and out, those are the ones you want to share in your blog. And here's why. We've already established that the most compelling posts are useful to readers. It follows then that they want to hear from an expert, someone who knows more about the topic that they do and can bring them up to speed on whatever the subject is, whether it's personal finance, travel tips, or creative projects. So how-tos, explainers, and handy listicles, those numbered lists that break down an article into simple, easy-to-digest points, are a great way to show off what you know and make readers feel like they've tapped into a gold mine. Here are a couple of examples. Right away, the headline on this post, How to Find a Mentor That's Worth Having, tells me that the blogger, LinkedIn author Todd Dewitt, knows 2 things I don't know: how to find a mentor, and that some mentors are better than others. He's going to share that information with me if I read on. He's knowledgeable, and I'm about to benefit from that knowledge. I'm in. Here's a listicle: 6 time management hacks for busy managers. In this post, blogger Jolie Miller reveals that she's a busy manager who uses these tricks to stay sane on the job. That makes her an expert. And if we're willing to scan through her highly scannable list, we can rise to her level of expertise too. It's a good idea to show readers how and why you're knowledgeable in a subject, to offer a little evidence so your audience has confidence that it's getting savvy, qualified insight. One place to do that is in the tagline at the end of your post, that line that says who you are and something brief about your experience or expertise. That small space, along with the About section on your blog, can go a long way towards showing readers that you know your stuff and you're someone worth paying attention to. So make sure both of those are smart, succinct, and potent. But your post itself should be where your know-how really shines. In this post on the care and cleaning of paintbrushes from the Orange Valley Community Arts Association blog, the writer lays some artistic vocabulary on us, telling us the base of the brush is called the ferrule, then warns us about what happens eventually to a brush that's stored vertically in liquid, which shows us that they've learned personally, through trial and error, so that we don't have to. Now, a word of caution here as you're offering up your expertise. Make sure you really do know what you're talking about. A blog post is not the place for guesswork, even on small details. Any inaccuracies in your post will almost certainly be called out by persnickety readers, in the comments field, or even, posts about you on social media. Now, in another video, we'll talk about how to handle negative feedback, but you can eliminate some of it altogether by striving for 100% accuracy in all statements you make in your posts, like a good journalist would. Be sure to double-check your facts, back up your opinions, and cite sources when you include information that you got elsewhere. You can even link out to other sources to help readers find more information if they want it. For example, in this post, No More 9 to 5, Making a Flexible Schedule Work for You, blogger Juliana Aldis makes a provocative statement. The traditional 9 to 5 workday is an outdated concept these days. And then, in case you were feeling skeptical, she cites a career builder survey that backs it up. That ultimately builds trust between the readers and writer, and trust is key if you want readers to share your posts and hopefully come back for more. Remember that one of the best ways to build trust is to follow the old adage, write what you know. When you tackle a subject area you know by heart or a skill you've mastered, you're offering your audience something of genuine value, and something few others can. So I have this neighbor. She's a doll, very friendly, but she loves to chat, and inevitably when I'm flying out the door running late, she'll stop me in the driveway to tell me a quick story. Only, and maybe you know where I'm going with this, it's not a quick story. She starts off with a clear and relevant goal, something about our dog and her hydrangeas, but then the tale begins to meander and weave, and pretty soon we've lost the thread entirely, and I'm hearing about the grandkids' gymnastics, and by the way, have I ever been to Aruba? It's a lesson in patience. When you're in a hurry and you're seeking specific information, a message that doesn't get right to the point can be frustrating. And it's wise to assume that readers who stop to read a blog post are almost always in a hurry, and that they're specifically seeking what your headline promised them they'd find in your post. So don't aggravate them by typing out whatever stream of consciousness thoughts pop into your head as you're writing. Be respectful of their time and of their decision to hand it over to you by sticking to a single, clear point throughout. One way to do that is by writing your headline first, a short, snappy little title that sums up your main point in just a few words. Then use this headline and maybe a list of closely related bullet points you want to cover as a guide as you craft the rest of the post. If at any point your writing branches off from the main idea in your headline, bring it back around to what the reader came for. Here's a great example. The headline for this blog post from H+ Sport promises exercises you really can do at your desk. The post begins by saying that some claims about desk exercise are silly and inconvenient. Then it sets about offering exactly what it said it would, a focused list of 5 different kinds of exercises you can do at work without feeling ridiculous. Numbered lists like this, they're called listicles in the blog vernacular, are an easy way to keep your content focused, and they also make your posts super scannable for readers who are short on time. But you can and should stay focused even with more conversational, less structured posts, like this one from leadership expert Lisa Earle McLeod. The headline claims that gratitude is a gateway drug, a sort of teaser statement that you have to dig into the post to fully understand. By the end of the second paragraph, Lisa has begun answering the questions that her headline brought up. She's talking about gratitude and how it affects our moods. She asks us questions. She offers a personal anecdote. But she keeps weaving it all together with the theme of gratitude, never going more than a paragraph without bringing her narrative back around to the issue at hand. Note that she's not repeating herself either. Each paragraph makes a new point about gratitude and the impact it has on our outlook, how it's the opposite of victimhood, how to cultivate it for yourself. But it never veers off track to talk about something new and only tangentially related, like, say, other things we can do to boost our happiness, or a list of all the people and things she's grateful for. No, it stays focused throughout, tightly written, efficiently organized. And by doing that, it rewards us for our attention. Editing ourselves is hard. It takes discipline and self-control to put a great idea on the back burner just because it's slightly off topic. But it's win-win if you think of it this way. Your readers will thank you for sticking to the message they came for, and you can always make more compelling blog posts out of the ideas you stopped yourself from cramming into this one. Whether it's the latest political story, culinary craze, health scare, or celebrity gossip, it's hard to resist stories about the news of the day. It's human nature to want to know what's new, what's trending, what the people in your world are talking about, excited about, even arguing about. And in this information age, there's no shortage of news to tap into, even if it's only on the top of the news cycle for 15 minutes before the next big story comes along. So a surefire way to draw your readers into your posts is to use the day's news as a springboard for your own topics. Let me explain. We know that readers are attracted to right-now news, so it's kind of a cheap trick, but if your post can tie into that timely news and contribute to the larger conversation about that subject, you're likely to get more eyeballs on it. Marketing 101, right? Here's the rub, though. There's no point in jumping on the news of the day bandwagon if you don't have something fresh to bring to it. The thing about that easy eyeballs tap into the news strategy I mentioned, it's well known, so lots of folks are trying it. And it's really easy to spot the ones who are just using it to get your attention, but don't really have anything new or interesting to say on the subject. They wind up just rehashing what others have already said, and often said better. Those are the posts that frustrate readers and send a clear "don't come back to this blog" signal. You don't want that. What you do want is to find a fun and thoughtful way to put your own spin on the news, to use it as a launch pad for a topic about which you do have something to say. Here's an example. In her post, Why Women and Men Need to Toot Their Own Horns, leadership strategist Roberta Matusin begins by referencing a provocative article that appeared in the New York Times the very same week about why there aren't more women CEOs. She quotes the article verbatim, citing the source, of course. And then, after sucking us in with a grabby headline from a top news source, she quickly pivots to the real task at hand, telling us what she knows about the subject. She begins by citing her own book, continues by sharing personal anecdotes, and concludes with her own strong opinion on the matter. This is great because it's an original take on a proven or road-tested topic, one that has already been established as being of interest to the general public based on its publication by a major news organization, and it demonstrates Roberta's expertise in leadership. You can use this approach with less serious topics, too. It's appropriate for posts of really any tone. I once wrote a humor piece called Dog Hair, the New Superfood. Medical researchers in Finland had just released a study saying that living with a dog or cat actually boosts babies' immune systems and makes them healthier. And everyone was chattering about this of-the-moment health news and whether it made sense or could be taken too far. But I took a different tack. I was writing a lot about parenting issues at the time. I used this study as a leaping-off point for a 600-word riff on maternal guilt. I confessed to being a far-from-perfect parent and came clean, so to speak, about how good it feels as an anxious modern mother to have done something right for once. And the post wound up being really popular. I heard from lots of readers who could relate and said it made them laugh and feel understood for a minute, which to me is the best thing a writer can hear. If you want to delight your readers, try sifting through the latest topics and trends and see if you can find something that you can tackle with a fresh point of view. It'll show readers you're not only tapped into what's going on out there, but you've also got a unique perspective they can't get anywhere else. Do you have a favorite show that you watch, like watch it religiously, never miss an episode? And I'll bet you know exactly how often, on what day, and even at what time that show releases new episodes, right? Now, imagine how frustrated you'd be, and how unpopular that show would be, if that pattern suddenly changed and the producers just started randomly releasing episodes whenever they felt like it. To build an audience that relies on your voice, that makes a habit out of consuming your content, you need to post predictably, consistently. So, how often do you have to post? There's no hard and fast rule. Post as often as you can commit to producing compelling content on a regular basis. Few individual bloggers can keep up with a daily post schedule over an extended period of time. You just run out of worthwhile things to say every day. Often blogs that make daily posts will pull in guest bloggers to help with the demanding pace. But posting a few times a week, or once a week, or even a few times a month at fairly regular intervals will establish a consistent pattern and a frequency that allows your readers to trust in you and know that you'll be there when they need you. Any less than twice a month, and you're probably going to lose the benefit of any momentum you've built up between each post. Readers can't get quite enough to look forward to you or count on you. If you're a business, add blog post as a recurring event to your marketing or content calendar, and think about how it could fit in with your company news or product launches, like these short but handy health-related posts by the athletic performance company H+ Sport. Here's another example of someone who's got consistency dialed in. Leadership expert Lisa Earle McLeod has made over 100 posts on LinkedIn in just a couple of years. She posts an average of 4 times a month, always on attitudes, behaviors, and perspectives that make you more successful at work. So by posting regularly on her area of expertise, she's established herself as an authority, a thought leader in her field. And her posts always get a ton of likes, comments, and shares, so her consistent stream of thoughtful, insightful little essays have made her a familiar voice that folks like to not only hear, but engage with. So, how do you come up with posts at such a frequent clip? It may seem daunting, but you'd be surprised. It's really just about training yourself to see your normal thoughts and questions and daily little revelations as potential posts that others might find interesting too. You're already an expert in something, and chances are you spend a good deal of time thinking about that subject. Maybe it's a common misconception that you often run into, or maybe it's a solution you've discovered to a problem after much trial and error. Get in the habit of jotting down related ideas, even phrases or headlines or bullet point outlines as you go about your life. Type them into Evernote, speak them into your voice recorder on your phone, scrawl them out on sticky notes, and soon you'll have a backlog of ideas to choose from when you sit down to write a post. Remember when your high school teacher would assign you an essay, and you'd ask how long it needed to be, and she'd tell you, to your extreme adolescent agitation, it should be as long as it needs to be to make your argument? Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm that annoying teacher. Because when it comes to the length of blog posts, I strongly believe your word count should be determined by what you have to say and how clearly and concisely you can say it. If that's a paragraph or a scrolling page, so be it. However, there are some other ways to look at the question of length that are worth considering. One is that the average person reads between 150 and 300 words per minute. So realistically, how long do you expect people will be willing to spend on your post? How long do you typically spend reading a blog post? 3 to 5 minutes? That's anywhere from 450 to 1,500 words. It's a pretty good range to aim for when you sit down to write. Another consideration is, what's the purpose of your post? Your goal may have an impact on the length. If your goal is for people to get to the end of the post so they can click a link, leave comments, or share it, then maybe shorter is better. Help them reach the finish line faster so they're more likely to stick with it and stay to the end. Many bloggers have found that shorter posts of 300 words or so are great for generating comments. But studies show that longer posts of, say, 1,000 to 1,500 words get shared more on social media. And if your goal is for new readers to find you via search engine, then you may actually want a longer post. Search engines like Google rank longer posts higher in search results because they're seen as having more substantive content that's more likely to satisfy searchers. What's a longer post? Upwards of 2,500 words. A word of warning, though, Google also favors pages with a low bounce rate, meaning readers who found you didn't just glance at your content and leave. They stayed for a while and read through it. So obviously, no matter how many words you have, you want them to be engaging, not just filling space. Readers can sniff out a post that's padded to seem substantive when it's really just repetitive. So if you decide to write long posts for SEO purposes, that's great, brilliant. But make sure you've got plenty to say on the subject. To return to those school day essay memories, a post that's really very repetitive isn't going to impress search engines or readers. As people, we all just want to be loved and adored for the content of our character. Similarly, blogs want to be loved for the character of their content. But just like people, blog posts do need to put some effort into their appearance to pique and maintain the interest of potential admirers. Here are a few ways you can spruce up your posts to keep eyeballs engaged and readers happy through long stretches of text. The best way to break up dull, gray blocks of words on the page, of course, is with colorful, compelling images and video. We're a more visual society than ever before, and we expect to be shown rather than always told what we need to know. Sometimes that's easy. A men's fashion blog like Articles of Style, for example, embeds gorgeous images into its posts. In this one man's trash, another man's treasure, about finding and using vintage accessories, we get these beautiful photographs, and the words in between are really just bridges between the eye candy. But even on topics that don't naturally lend themselves to imagery, you can still ensure that your readers have fun things to look at. Take Frugalwoods, for example, which always illustrates its posts with homegrown photos that cost nothing. This post, How a Year of Extreme Frugality Changed Us, is full of abstract concepts, but includes relevant and authentic images to parallel the text. A study by Blog Pros recommends an image for every 350 words, and Frugalwoods meets that recommendation without ever having to buy stock images. Of course, we don't always have quality images or videos to offer, so there are a couple of other things you can do with just formatting to make long blocks of text more visually palatable and inviting to readers' eyes. One is to actually write your post as a list, and this is a really popular format. You see it constantly. Take a look at 9 reasons to start boxing after 40. Or how about this post, 5 things you should stop doing in 2012. 4 New Year's resolutions for your pet is another example. The reason this format is so common is because both writers and readers love it. It imposes an automatic structure or outline onto your post, so writers know how they're going to break up their information before they even begin writing, which is handy. And it tells readers what they can expect before they even set eyes on the thing, which is inviting. Plus, it makes it scannable. By breaking the information up into numbered points, readers can consume each piece visually and process it intellectually before moving on to the next one. But if numbering doesn't make sense for your topic, don't force it. you can still take advantage of this concept by using bullet points, whenever appropriate, to build in a little visual interest and natural organizational cues for readers. Leadership expert Lisa Earle McLeod uses them here in her post, How to Deal with a Whining Employee, when she says, reframe the feedback by asking a few questions. Try these. How does this impact your job? What do you think we should do? Do you have any ideas on how to fix this? And so on. One final way to break up long posts is with subheads. Short for subordinate headlines, subheads are sort of chapter dividers that can be embedded into your post to both break up an intimidating wall of text and give readers a hint as to what's in each section. Lisa used them in How to Deal with a Whining Employee in the bold section dividers, Is there truth here? And Is it actionable? Leadership instructor Todd Dewitt uses them in his post, How to Find a Mentor That's Worth Having, in the dividers To Attract a Great Mentor, To Take Full Advantage of the Mentorship, and How My Mentor Helped Me. You and I both know it's what's inside your blog post that matters most. But follow these tips and you'll be able to keep readers' eyes on your post long enough for them to realize it too. In the art of conversation, everyone knows that you can't just talk about yourself. You have to create opportunities for your audience to jump in and get involved in the discussion too. And blog posts aren't much different. Sure, your end of the conversation goes on longer than in a real dialogue, but you still need to offer your audience some points of engagement. In blogging, these points are called calls to action. A call to action, or CTA for short, is simply an invitation for your readers to do something. It could be a link out to another site where they can find more information, or a pitch for them to buy your product. You could be inviting them to follow you on social media or asking them to donate to a charitable cause. Statistics show that blogs with calls to action have much higher engagement rates than those without, so it's worth it to think about how you can build them into your posts. To start, where exactly should you put them? While you can embed CTAs almost anywhere in your post, it can be distracting to readers to keep stumbling over links and asides as they read. But at the end of a post is always a safe place to put a call to action. And I'll tell you why. If you're a business trying to convert readers to paying customers, then injecting salesy links throughout your post is likely to turn off your audience and make them feel marketed to rather than educated, entertained, and enlightened, as they should feel while reading a blog. But at the end, those kind of links actually feel helpful, more like resources than hard sells. And even if your goal isn't sales specifically, say you're blogging to develop your reputation as a thought leader in a particular area, I still recommend adding links to the end of your post so that readers can continue exploring the subject at hand. For one thing, this further demonstrates your knowledge of the subject. For another, it shows you're helpful and invested in their learning. You're not merely focused on keeping all eyes on you. And finally, it boosts your rank in searches to have links within your posts. Another smart way to engage readers at the end of a post is to ask them a question and give them the opportunity to respond. Back to the art of conversation, it's creating more of a give and take with your audience. Dory Clark does this at the end of her very popular post, 5 Things You Should Stop Doing in 2012, when she asks, what are you going to stop doing? And how are you going to leverage all of that extra time? Articles of Style does it at the bottom of its post, to cuff or not to cuff, with the prompt, tailoring is all about personal preference. Which fabrics do you cuff? And Frugal Woods does it in most of their posts, like this one about finding inexpensive eyeglasses online. Do you wear glasses, they ask? What are your tips for saving money on frames? That simple question netted 112 comments. Here's one final reason it's great to put your calls to action at the end. Endings are hard to write, and offering your readers further resources or asking them to weigh in on the decision turns out to be a very handy, even graceful way to wrap up your post and transition them smoothly back to reality. So tell me, what call to action are you going to use first? You're in your car. You turn on the radio. And within a few syllables, you know who's singing, because the voice is so unique, so instantly recognizable. Louis Armstrong, Janis Joplin, Smokey Robinson, Amy Winehouse. Granted, those are some big lungs to fill, but bloggers should strive to have a unique, recognizable voice too. Because in writing, it's not just what you say, it's how you say it that makes your work stand out, makes it sound like something only you could write. We know what voice is for a singer, but how do you define voice when it comes to writers? Grammar Girl, a word nerd after my own heart, says voice is the distinct personality, style, or point of view of a piece of writing. I think of it as really all the tools you use within the confines of a piece of writing to make your point, from the way you use language to the length of your sentences and paragraphs, even the quirky way you punctuate. Look at this post on the blog The Glowing Edge by Lisa Creech Bledsoe, a mother, competitive boxer, and blogger with a distinctive voice. Lisa's short post, 9 Reasons to Start Boxing After 40, which she did, is packed with her playful, confident, conversational voice. Think about the difference, she says, between saying, "Yeah, I play a little basketball," versus, "The stitches don't bother me. I have another fight next month. You should come." Come on, it's just cool. She caps off paragraphs with attitude-heavy words and phrases that are the equivalent of a verbal wink. Here she interjects, "please," and makes it its own sentence. And here she ends with, "Boxing has just the right balance of risk and safety to give you a jolt and still send you home in one piece." Mostly one piece. The effect is you feel like you're listening to an actual human speak in her own personal voice, as opposed to reading a stuffy textbook-style explainer of a subject, which can be dry, devoid of personality, and not especially engaging to an audience whose attention is being sought by lots of other engaging stuff. So how do you develop your voice? First, by reading other blogs and deciding what you like and what you think works well for other writers. Then, by experimenting. Try writing a post in the style and voice of someone else, a blogger or columnist you admire and whose work you know well. Try again in the voice of still another writer. The process of exploring and imitating someone else's voice will not only help you better understand what voice is, it will help you discover what shapes your own voice. Maybe you write just like you talk, and you talk like nobody else. Maybe it's the deliberate rhythm of your writing, a cadence to your words that draws people in like an irresistible drum beat. Or maybe it's a catchphrase or two that you coined and used judiciously throughout your work. No one's saying your post has to be poetry. It just has to have a distinct you-ness to it. So when you sit down to write, think of it as stepping up to the microphone and really letting your voice rip, like only you can. Indulge me for a moment. Think back to your favorite high school teacher, the one who truly captured your attention, whose class you actually hated to miss and whose teaching really rubbed off on you, had a lasting impact on you in some way. Now, I'm willing to bet the reason that teacher made an impression on you is because of their palpable passion for the subject they were teaching. Conviction is contagious. When someone is really into what they're talking about, writing about, crowing about, when their enthusiasm for the topic is so thick it's almost tangible, you can't help but get caught up in it. One of the most popular blog posts I ever wrote was one I just had to get off my chest about the awful jargon used in everyday business speak. Pain points, key wins, action items. It was a personal pet peeve, a crusade even, and I unleashed my invective about this dialect of catchphrases into a post that got tons of likes and shares and was eventually turned into a podcast by a national media outlet. I think what people liked best about the column is it was fun to read because I went off on this stuff. I'd given way more thought to this subject than most people, maybe even more than was healthy. I had an explicit point of view, and I wasn't going to let anybody turn away until they were schooled in it. Who doesn't love to see people put themselves out there and lay their fervor bare for all the world to see? As a reader myself, that's fascinating. I don't care what the topic is. Look at this example. Mrs. Frugalwoods, the penny-pinching homesteader, writes in this post about why everyone should buy used cars. This woman is not ambivalent about why used cars are the way to go. This is her cause. Look how she calls herself a frugal evangelist, and how she points us to other related posts she's made from this beloved soapbox. Regardless of whether you agree, it's compelling to see someone lay it all on the table like that. On the contrary, when a writer's faking it, writing about something they don't care about but think they're supposed to weigh in on because, say, it's what everyone's talking about right now, it's painfully clear to readers. Their tone is dull, their prose sort of lays there lifeless. It's just wasted keystrokes is what that is. But here's the bonus. Blog posts about a subject you love are not only more compelling to readers, they're also way more fun to write. I've been on both sides of this, friends, and trust me when I say you'd rather be bursting with facts and opinions about your deeply held and maybe even slightly peculiar area of interest than staring at a blank screen trying to will yourself to have something, anything to say about the trend du jour. So, how do you tap into your passion? How do you know when you've hit upon a topic that's sure to command attention and showcase your irresistible zeal to curious readers? Consider the subjects that keep you up at night. The ones that family members avoid bringing up around you because they know it'll lead to an hour-long discussion. And the ones that'll draw you into a conversation with strangers if you overhear them being discussed at a party or on social media. Alert! These are the things you're passionate about, and potentially great fodder for blog posts. One thing to keep in mind, though, a passionate blog post is not a license to rant. Your blog must make a clear and compelling point and develop a well-organized argument around that point. But it does make for easier writing and more engaging reading when you choose subjects that you can tackle with a gusto that's yours and yours alone. In some ways, blog posts are like opinion pieces that you'd see published by news organizations. Posts can reflect the views of a single person, kind of like a column or TV news commentator, or they can represent a large organization as a whole, the way a newspaper editorial does. And, like those, a blog post often makes an argument from a particular point of view, with the goal of convincing the reader to do something, believe something, or feel something. But there are also some real differences between the two mediums. For one, respected news organizations adhere to a strict set of journalistic principles like truth and accuracy, fairness, and independence. They don't do it in order to be holier than thou. They do it so that readers continue to trust them. It's sort of a promise to their audience that they'll behave with integrity at all turns. Now, blogs are a little more Wild West, right? Because they sprung up organically as a personal platform rather than as a government-protected industry, there isn't an official blogger's manifesto that you have to follow in order to woo followers on the web. However, the best blogs, those that hope to win readers' trust over time and establish their authors as the most credible experts in their fields, those blogs do practice integrity and maintain high standards with what they publish, whether they have to or not. And if you're serious about using your blog to become a thought leader, then I suggest you give some thought to your own publishing ethics and adopt some good sense principles of your own. And whether you're blogging for your business or as a personal hobby, and even if journalism is the furthest thing from your mind, you can still start by looking at the news principles and adapting them for your own purposes. For example, truth and accuracy means making every effort to get your facts straight, verifying information before you publish it, and taking responsibility when you make mistakes, including correcting any false information as soon as you can. That's just responsible publishing, no matter what you call yourself. Then there's fairness. It's good practice to say, give credit where it's due by citing any sources that you get information from, and to consider the long-term impacts of anyone you're going to be critical of in your post, maybe even allowing them a chance to respond before you publish. Independence is a really important one to think about. Lots of bloggers accept freebies in exchange for mentioning certain products or companies in their posts. And that's fine if that's your business model, and your readers understand how it all works. But unless your blog is your business, I would caution you against taking gifts or favors in exchange for favorable mentions. It sounds great, I know, but it creates a conflict of interest, a real one or even just a perceived one, and the difference is actually immaterial. And it signals to readers that your word on any subject can be bought and sold, which diminishes your credibility. And no matter if you're marketing a business, telling your life story, or reporting on the day's news, a truthful, fair, and authentic writer is one that readers want to come back to again and again. We've talked about crafting a blog post and what goes into it before you publish, but your work doesn't end when you send it live for all the world to see. Perhaps the hardest part of all comes when people read the thing and begin to comment on it. Whether you're posting to your own personal blog with comments enabled, or posting to a news feed like LinkedIn, which allows readers to comment below each posted article, reader engagement is a good thing. You want to encourage folks to share their honest reactions to what you write. And if your post is useful and focused, timely and fresh, and you've written it with passion and voice about a subject you know a lot about, then your readers are likely to leave terrific feedback. But occasionally, you're going to hear from people who disagree with you, or who don't like your style or approach. And sometimes, because we all know they're out there, you'll get comments from those who are simply grouchy and inclined to call you names. And that's never fun. No one likes to put this much work into something, summon the courage to share it with humanity, and have it called ignorant and insulting drivel. That's an actual quote that someone left on one of my posts, along with, "This is so stupid, I could vomit." I laugh now, but it's taken me years to learn not to take that stuff personally. Here's how I did it. First of all, I remember that it takes guts to put yourself out there, but all it takes to tear someone down is a keyboard and a chip on your shoulder. Let's be frank. There's a contingent of anonymous cranks out there who just enjoy leaving snarky, rude remarks on articles. That's not feedback. It's a sort of sad hobby, and it simply can't be taken seriously. Of course, you don't have to read all the feedback left on your posts, and some bloggers choose to disable comments if they frequently get a lot of mean-spirited or not constructive ones. But I recommend you do allow them and you do monitor them, because you can learn valuable things from legitimate feedback. For example, I like to see what kinds of back-and-forth discussions my posts fuel among the commenters themselves. Another thing I do to keep criticism from rattling me is I weigh the good feedback with the bad. If I'm getting mostly thanks for offering useful insight, then I take the few thumbs downers with a grain of salt. I hear them out, but I don't give their divergent opinions more attention than they warrant in the big picture. On the other hand, if something I write gets slammed by readers with mostly negative comments, I may have failed to think my piece through effectively. It happens. Live and learn. A blog isn't a magnum opus, it's an evolving process, so aim to make the next one better. Now, should you respond to comments? It depends on what kind of relationship you want with your readers, but I make it a point never to engage trolls in dialogue. Your blog is your platform. That's where you have your say. They get a tiny white comment box to have theirs, and then everyone moves on. With any luck, your loyal readers will come to your defense anyway. The last thing that helps me handle negative feedback, whether it's constructive or cruel, is this. I recognize the true privilege of having a platform to say my piece and an audience to consume it. If I expect readers to let me preach at them for a few hundred words, it's only fair to let them squawk back a bit, right? I look at it this way. Negative feedback is simply the cost of having this free, easy, flexible outlet to share our ideas and expertise with the whole world. And I think you'll find it's generally worth it.